Good evening, Bladers. By the time I'm recording this, it would be evening time. We have the Beyblade Burst Dynamite Battle. B191 Overdrive set. This does come with 3 bays. The custom combo, Savior Perseus, Giga Bearing Dash 3. The evolution of Dead Phoenix, Prominence Phoenix, Tapered Metal Universe 10. And the blader there, I believe his name is Phenomenal Pain. He has not appeared in the anime yet, though, surprisingly. And we got the new and improved Overdrive System Bay, Dangerous Belial, All-Might Plus Ultra 2. And that's the new render for Bell. On the side here, we got just some random combos. The bottom and the top just shows the bays once again. And on the back, I have images of that zoom in onto the back parts. The parts for Dangerous Belial are the Belial 2 core, the Dangerous Blade, the 2 armor, and the All Might driver. On the image below, you can see that this Belial is compatible with all the previous gears, so you can have Dangerous Belial in its perfect gear form. What makes Belial part of the Overdrive system is the fact that it has a burst stopper in the core, which is only activated when you launch really hard. So it's pretty much a Chosen Awakening system, but with DB. Phoenix still has the armor gimmick as previously. It also has 2 ways to position the armor, which is in its heavy mode or its low mode. As for the parts itself, we got the Phoenix core, the Prominence blade, 10 armor, tapered disc, and Metal Universe driver. And then for Savior Perseus, which the gimmick is, of course, the awakening rubber pieces of the Savior blade, but the rubber pieces will wear off, eventually exposing the larger blades to improve its attack power. The core also has metal in it. And as for the parts, we got the Perseus core, the Savior blade, 3 armor, Giga disc, and Bearing Dash driver. We also do come with a new and improved version of the power launcher. So this does have the power gear unit. But the actual core unit has a longer string, and the spin unit has a metal bearing inside. With that, without further ado, let's finally get this unboxing started. The first thing we're going to start off with this unboxing is the new and improved power launcher. So the core unit for the power launcher and the spin unit is what's really different about this. The power gear unit is pretty much the exact same as the original blue power launcher that you could get from the Savior Valkyrie set. It simply has a smaller gear inside, which gives it extra power. Only difference is that this is a completely clear color. Now here we have the core unit, of course. Nice golden recolor. Now it's kind of hard to show this on my camera, but the core unit string is a little bit longer compared to the regular DB launcher string. So, once again, that will add a bit of extra power. And interestingly, inside this spin unit, there is a metal bearing. As a result, the actual handle itself would spin a lot more freely, I assume, compared to a standard DB launcher. So, this improved power launcher really is supposed to put the name in power. Like, every part about it is supposed to give extra rotation and overall spin power and speed to the bay. The power gear unit, the long core unit, and the bearing spin unit. Also, I'm a real big fan of this recolor. I just really dig the gold and clear color scheme. It looks really sick. Of course, the first bay we're going to be talking about is the new Savior Perseus. So here is the driver, Bearing Dash. So Bearing has a wide cone-shaped tip made of POM plastic, which has very low friction to the stadium floor, thus increasing its overall endurance. And as the name implies, similar to the spin unit, there is a bearing inside the shaft of the tip, thus causing the actual tip itself to spin quite freely for a pretty decently long time. And because of its wide width, it has great balance support and incredible endurance. Now, even though this is Bearing Dash, you may notice that the cap is yellow. Well, in this light it gets a little bit of yellow, but in reality it's orange. The reason why it's orange is because the original Bearing driver spring was weaker than normal drivers. So what they did is that they just give it a normal spring. And as you can see, it's not in gold, it is a normal spring. So, like I said, they just give Bearing Dash is basically Bearing, but with a regular driver spring instead of the original Bearing's very weak spring. But Bearing's a very powerful driver for stamina combinations. Here is the Giga disc. Also a good disc, a good part I should say, for stamina type combinations, as well as an all-around good disc to use for attack and defense combinations, as it's very heavy, and pretty much just looks like a heavier version of the gravity disc that we would have from Rising Ragnarok. This is the 3 armor which first came on Vanish Fafnir. As you can see, the 3 points here, this makes it pretty good for attack combinations, and yeah. Also, the stickers are really difficult to put on this thing because they don't stick well at all. It's so annoying. Some armors are just annoying like that. Here is the Savior Blade, which of course first came on Savior Valkyrie. So it has a standard Valkyrie design with the 3 giant swords, but there are smaller rubber blades in front of each sword. The very ends of these rubber blades will break off, revealing the actual sword itself, increasing the attack power of the blade, which is known as its awakening. I'm a big fan of this recolor because I really dig the white with the golden rubber. Looks pretty sick. But Savior is a very good blade for attack combinations. And then finally we got the Perseus core. So that is Perseus' face, the golden part with a little bit of purple stickers. And inside the edge of the core where the blue and with a clear plastic is with the blue accents, there are 4 metal areas. So this is one of the few cores that actually have metal in it. Well, it's the only other core aside from Longlist that has metal in it, so it's definitely competitively viable as a result. Those are its teeth, looks pretty nice. Here is Savior Perseus in high mode. As you can see, you can have the 3 points of the armor aligned with the 3 blades, which is pretty nice. And here is the full combination Savior Perseus Giga Bearing Dash 3 in low mode. Moving on to Prominence Phoenix, the evolution of Revive Phoenix, which was last seen in Show Z. So it's been a while since we got a Phoenix-Beyblade. We got Metal Universe. Really do love this crimson red recolor. Looks pretty sick. Not a fan of metal drivers though, because when used on most combinations, it just damages and wears down the teeth pretty quickly. This isn't much of a problem with Phoenix, I think. I know it's not much of a problem with the Longinus core though. They're like kind of designed to handle the teeth decently, which is pretty good. But yeah, as for the gimmick of Universe itself, we already know it has a free spinning ball in the center with a free spinning ring around it. So it's really excellent LED, making it pretty good for opposite spin combinations. We have the Tapered disc, which again came on Vanish Fafnir, so a lot of Fafnir parts right now. So Tapered has a very low center of gravity. As you can see, the metal slopes downward. And it's pretty flat at the bottom, which can give it some potential scrape risk if it's not really off balance. So use it as at your own risk. Not sure how useful this disc is, but I think the shape is pretty cool, I guess. The armor is 10, which came on Robohamut. So there's 10 points in total, 5 on each side. And since it's only been on defense type Beyblades, I guess it's a good armor for defense. Nothing much to say about this or any armor in general, honestly. Here we have the Prominence Blade. So in mythology, Phoenix has this whole thing where it can revive itself after dying, and when it dies, it's bursting into flames. So essentially revives itself from its own flames. So to represent that in burst form, Phoenix is a Beyblade that you have to burst twice, quote unquote. So the initial burst, its armor comes off, or in Prominence Phoenix's case, this is its Prominence shield. So this is where the thickness of the blade really comes into play. It's very round, has 4 wings. Overall, really do like the design. And then this is the inner piece of the Prominence blade. Now this piece is incredibly thin. So once the shield comes off, this is what remains left of the bay. And then you have to burst the combination for reals after that. Now there are actually 2 ways to place the armor on. Originally I had it in its normal mode where the silver parts of the armor align with the silver parts of the Prominence, of the second part of the Prominence blade. I'm just going to call it that. But if you have the silver parts of the shield align with the blue areas, then you have it in heavy mode. In heavy mode, the armor is more difficult to come off, which I guess in certain against certain opponents would be more viable. Probably against like less spin opponents per se. But honestly, the armor gimmicks is probably one of my favorite gimmicks from any Beyblade because it's very useful. As not only does it make Phoenix give it excellent defense properties, it gives Phoenix excellent defense properties, and when the armor comes off, it causes a lot of recoil to the opponent, which does great damage. And sometimes Phoenix can like fire its armor like a cannon to deal even greater damage. I remember when Fi used the Dead Phoenix in the anime, the move was called Dead Crush, and it was definitely really cool. And Prominence Phoenix can still do something similar to that in real life, which is really cool. As a result, Phoenix is one of my favorite Beyblades because it's one of the few Beyblades where it's like you can actually use its special move in real life. Anyways, here is the Phoenix core, looking pretty sick. There's nothing really special about the core. There's no gimmick, it just has a neat design. I do love the flame details on the golden edge. There are its teeth. Don't look too bad. This is Prominence Phoenix in high normal mode. And here's the full combination. Prominence Phoenix Tapered Metal Universe 10 in low mode as well as heavy mode. So once again, in heavy mode, the silver points of the armor have to align with the blue points of the bottom part. In normal mode, it's the opposite. The silver points of the armor have to align the silver points, which would have been here and here. Moving on to the most important bay of this entire set, we got Dangerous Belial, which is part of the new sub-layer system known as the Overdrive system. So since every part is new, I'm just going to start off with the chip, the core I mean. And here's the Belial 2 core. So aside from just aesthetic differences with its face, with the head being shown at an angle and with it being vertical, this is part of the Overdrive system. As you can see right there, this part would actually be a burst stopper, which would only pop out when you launch the bay at high strength. So what makes the Overdrive system special is that it's basically the Chosen Awakening system, except for DB bays. So that's pretty much it. Aside from that, nothing too crazy about this core. It has the exact same teeth, so it's pretty much just a better version of the original Belial core. Here is the Dangerous Blade, and while I do love the design, there's nothing too crazy about this blade either. If I were to describe it, it basically took a slightly altered design of Savior and gave it the color scheme of Dynamite, basically. It's mainly black with a little bit of red. The red parts are now made of rubber, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, it's just a more dangerous, quote-unquote, a more dangerous version of the Dynamite blade. What's cool about Dangerous Belial, as I already stated when I showed you the box, this blade can use the L and F gear, which is pretty awesome. And I'm actually showing you a clip of it with those two gears right now. So here's the two armor, nothing too special. I do like the red stickers though, it makes it more aesthetically pleasing, but don't really care much about it. We raced it multiple times, and the armors aren't really special anyways. Now, the driver is called All Might. Shout out to My Hero fans, I love that series. So All Might's pretty interesting. As you can see, it's a disc combination driver, and the disc part, I mean, looks a lot like Nexus. It's basically just Nexus again, which is pretty cool, because this is where you would put the S gear on the driver, and these two notches here on the base is where you would put the V gear. So you can now have Dangerous Belial perfect gear. So moving on to this disc part, because this is actually a gimmick with this piece. First off, it is spring loaded, so you will have a bound attack. Doesn't move as much as the Saber Valkyrie blade. Well, the Saber Valkyrie core, excuse me. So I don't think it's anything real special, honestly. But yeah, it exists. And this piece actually can come off because, and this was crazy to me, you can give this piece its own high mode, and it has its own high and low mode. So here is All Might in its high mode, and as we saw earlier, that was all, as we saw originally, All Might was originally in its low mode. That's crazy to me. And honestly, this is a pretty cool gimmick. So you can either have Belial in super low mode, or Belial in super high mode, or Belial in high mode with the driver in low mode. You can't have it in low mode with the driver in high mode because it just won't work that way because the armor will block it. But honestly, I do think that's a pretty neat gimmick for it to have. Very creative. As for the actual tip itself, All Might is a 3-section driver, as you can see here. And essentially, it is free spinning. Interestingly though, when you launch the All Might driver into the stadium floor, the inner tip right here will actually retract inside, and the free spinning gimmick is locked. As you can see there, I'm showing you a clip of it right there, after I launched it. And because of that, if you actually launch it, it would have a lot more aggression and a lot more attack power. And it kind of makes me question what's the point of having it like this form, because you would only get All Might like this if you purposely weak launch. But I guess if you want to go out against less spin based, this mode would be more useful as it's free spinning, thus better life after death. Also, this piece right here, this white part I'm pointing at, is how you take off the V gear if you attach it. So here is the dangerous Belial lair in high mode. And here is the full combination. Dangerous Belial, All Might 2 in low mode. Man, though, these 3 bays are so fun to use. Right now, I think I'm leaning towards... Well, I'm not sure which one I like more between Phoenix or Belial. I really do love Phoenix's gimmick, but man, Belial has incredible attack power. And with the perfect gear, it is insanely heavy. Like, my god. Definitely recommend getting this set. All bays are awesome, plus with great parts and an awesome launcher. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you next time for more Beyblade Burst unboxing.